Hello there everyone, how's it going and how have you been? Welcome to SpaceChem. This is one of my favorite games. It is a puzzle game that might not make it the most riveting thing to watch on YouTube, but it is a game that I know pretty well. I've beaten the game, I've beaten the DLC, I've beaten a fair amount of the user-made levels with my personal profile, and that's probably a good thing because I'm new to this recording thing, I'm new to commentating, and I'd rather get used to recording and commentating with a game that I know, as opposed to trying to learn how to play a new game while trying to learn how to YouTube at the same time. This is specifically, I call them programming puzzle games, and basically what I mean by that is that the puzzles are all open-ended. Any solution you can come up with is valid to the game. It's not looking for a specific arrangement of tiles, or, you have to press these buttons in a specific order. Any answer you can come up with that solves the problem it presents you is valid. So, really quick, before I forget, I do want to address that there might be kind of a quiet, low, droning, whirring sound in the background underneath, my voice and the music. That's the fan stand for my laptop. I am recording this on a laptop. It's about as advanced as my setup is right now. Literally, I just have a laptop and I have a microphone plugged into it. That's as sophisticated of a Let's Player I am right now. But that's about all I can manage, so it's going to have to do. I just wanted to draw attention to that really quick, and that I know it's there, but this game does make my computer run just a little bit warmer than I'd like it, so I prefer to have a fan stand to help keep it cool rather than let it, get hot and possibly damage itself. So, how about enough prattling? Let's go ahead and create a new profile. I will be playing through all of the main game, both DLC, probably a fair amount of the user-made levels. I love this game, I love playing it, well, big brain fart right off of the bat. Not good. What was it gonna... Yeah. I've mostly played some of the really hard user-made levels. I actually have not played the story itself in a really long time, so it's going to be kind of new to me, and I'm really excited because I remember having a lot of fun solving all the puzzles in the story, and I'm honestly looking forward to doing it again, and I hope that I can make this game entertaining for all of you guys. So let's just go ahead and make a new profile. Oh, what do I want to put down? What do I want to put down? I am terrible with coming up with names. Let's just call myself Squid. I can't think of anything better. Squidian? Nah, let's just keep Squid. I am a squid. Alright. Now, you may have noticed, light turned off. The user-made levels are not unlocked by default. You have to progress through the story quite a ways for them to become available, mainly because the game wants to make sure that you're familiar with all of its concepts before it lets you loose on levels that may have said concepts before you're actually introduced to them and given an explanation of how it works. And here we have our first of the two tutorial planets, Sernimir 2. This first one, I've never clicked on this, but the fact that it says external video, it makes me think that it's going to open up a browser with a YouTube video, and I have no idea what that's going to do to the recording. My best guess is probably nothing because of how I have it set up, but I'd rather not click on it just to be safe. Regardless, this is the first actual level of pancakes and spaceships. So, without further ado, let's start the tutorial. Now here, we have our first basic overview of the game, and the whole goal of SpaceChem is to turn molecules into different molecules. Those are the puzzles we're presented with. We turn atoms and molecules into different atoms and molecules. We do so with the help of these two little circles right here, which are called Waldos. They'll grab, move, rotate, drop atoms, move whole molecules when all the atoms are linked. Waldos will always be following their track. They can be redirected with the arrows, and whenever they pass over one of these little instructional command disk things, they will execute that command. Something good to note, however, is that they only execute commands that match their colors. So red will only activate red commands, and blue will only activate blue commands. Now, accompanying us through all these levels is going to be a story. I'm not going to read the story for right now. I've done practice recordings of these tutorial planets. Every single time, it's always topped out at well over an hour, so much so that I'm actually giving Sernimir 2 its own video, and then I'm going to give this next planet its own video as well, just to kind of break it up and not leave you guys with a possible hour-and-a-half long video. But the main reason I'm avoiding the story right now is because I don't want it to bloat the runtime very much. I don't want to spend, I don't want to spend any extra time reading a story when there's going to be plenty of instructions and training and concepts that I'm going to have to explain anyway. So, for now I'm going to ignore it. When we do get into the game, if you guys would like, I will start reading the story pages if that's what you want. Alternatively, I can just do what I'm going to do for the tutorial levels and put the story pages on screen and let you guys pause the video if you're curious so you can read it, and if you're not, you just have to wait a few seconds for me to continue on into the level. Now, let's get to making our first Waldo program. We do so with these instructions that we have down here. This particular instruction, input alpha, accepts a molecule into the reactor on this 4x4 square. It will match what this diagram says it is. So there will be an oxygen here and an oxygen here, double bonded into an O2 molecule. Now, there's two ways you can put instructions down. You can either click and drag from the bin and put it and then let go on whatever square you want. Or, the way I prefer to do it is to press the hotkey on the same button and then click wherever you want to put it. I will be doing hotkeys, mainly because A, that's how I've grown accustomed to playing this game for, probably 99% of the time that I've played it. And B, my mouse is actually acting up a little bit. Its left click does not like to cooperate a lot of the time. Sometimes it doesn't click when I click, sometimes it clicks twice when I only click once. It likes being annoying right now. I need to get a new one, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So, I'd rather not be fighting with my mouse while trying to explain how this game works, so I'm just going to do the method that I've grown used to. Now, this grab drop command will make the Waldo try and pick up any atoms underneath it. If there is no if there's nothing for it to grab onto, then it doesn't really care. It'll just keep following its track on, It'll be happy. It'll just do what it's been doing. Arrows, like you probably saw on the training page down there, they make the Waldo turn. Now this one is important. Every square can only contain one arrow and one non-arrow. So I can't have the Waldo call in a molecule and grab it on the same square. He has to spin a square calling it and then grabbing it. I can't do it simultaneously. Now, this only applies to each color, so I can only have one red arrow and one red instruction per square, but I can have a red instruction and a blue instruction on the same square, because red doesn't listen to blue commands and blue doesn't listen to red commands. This instruction will cause the Waldo to rotate its held molecule 90 degrees. It's included here only for demonstration purposes, just so we can see what it looks like, and is not required. And in fact, rotation doesn't matter to this game. When I said that this game is open-ended, I meant open-ended. I could put, you see how it says that it wants the oxygen molecule on these two squares? That's not particularly true. It's just saying what it wants. I could put it up in the corner, I could put it down here, I could put it along this wall. So long as it's an oxygen molecule, the game is actually smart enough to figure it out, regardless of how it's rotated. Anyway, Waldos will stop moving if they bump into the side of a reactor. And more importantly, if two atoms run into each other, or if we try pushing an atom out of this 8x10 playing area, we get a fail state and the solution stops, because we're not allowed to do that. All atoms have to be contained in this area, and we can't crash atoms into each other, because that's just not a very good thing to do. Grab drop instruction likewise will also make Waldo put down whatever it's holding on to. And then this out instruction will cause it to deliver the molecule and make it scored. Now, we have 4 speeds that we can run our solution at. 1, 2, 3, and 4. They can be activated by pressing 1, 2, 3, and 4 on your keyboard. The higher the number, the faster the reaction runs. 4 is blindingly fast, 1 is nice and slow. It's basically varying levels of speed, so you can either try and watch your solution run and make sure that it's doing everything it needs to do, or if you know it's going to work and you just need it to finish but it's going to take a while, you can turn it on to a very high speed. Just a nice selection. You can also stop the solution by pressing the tilde key, that is the one to the left of the 1 key, at least on my keyboard. I don't know, it might vary on other keyboards. But basically you can only change commands and rewrite your program when the reaction is stopped. You can't change it midway through. Pressing the space bar will pause the reaction, so we can kind of get, a still image of it in progress and see, what might be going wrong. And pressing the space bar again will cause it to resume at whatever speed it was set to when you paused it. Now, I will admit I'm probably not great at describing things, and that might not go very well with a game like this, where it is kind of vague and kind of difficult to understand at first. And if you are having difficulty understanding, I fully understand your situation, because I do remember when I first got this game and I first started playing it, I was having a little difficulty understanding what I was doing too, but I stuck with it, and somewhere along the line it all clicked together, so I hope it all clicks together for you guys as well. I will be doing my best to explain what's happening, and hopefully not confusing you guys even more, and if I do confuse you, I'm sorry, but I'm just not particularly good at it. Anyway, so here's speed 1. You can see red calls in the molecule, grabs onto it, carries it around. When he hits this, he stops and spins it. Spinning molecules can be important in later solutions, not to match whatever the game wants, but rather to get part of the molecule out of the way so that the other Waldo doesn't run into it with whatever he's doing. Anyway, red comes up and around, he puts the molecule down and delivers it. And that's the basics of the game. This is our first program. Very simple, because we don't have to change anything, we just have to move oxygen molecules from here over to here, and let me speed this up because this is going excruciatingly slow. Very simple. The game will kind of keep us at this sort of difficulty level for a little bit, but trust me, very soon we will start pulling molecules apart, putting them together. It's going to be a fun time, and just take my word for it. Once we're a few planets down the road, we're going to be doing things that make this look like absolute child's play. Now, when we finish a level, we are given 3 graphs. One that shows how many cycles have elapsed, basically how long it took our solution to finish. Every time a Waldo moves forward a square, 1 cycle elapses. How many reactors we use. This is not important right now for these kinds of levels. This is always going to be 1, but this will come into play once we get into the second level type, which won't happen until the next video. And then symbols used, basically how complex your solution was. As you can see, some people did deviate from the tutorial. They got it done with fewer symbols, they got it done faster. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be following the tutorials as closely as I can because, again, I don't want to confuse anyone that's new to this game. Oh. Pardon me, I just kind of did a weird yawn, but not a yawn. Anyway, we also have this big button that lets us record the solution and put it on YouTube. I am not using this button. I'm recording the whole game, mainly because this only records your solution, I'm pretty sure. It doesn't record, any of the in-between, any of the story, any of the training. And while I could talk over it, I'd have to describe it as it's going rather than describe it as I make it, which would probably be a little bit more difficult on me, on you guys. Just not as good. Let's continue before I start making, rambling away. Now we have slightly different. We have a quick chemistry lesson here for anyone who isn't, fully up to speed. Atoms, that is, single, atoms, I guess, are the building blocks of all matter. All matter we know of is made out of elements. Atoms of the same element have the same properties, so oxygen atoms all behave the same, carbon atoms all behave the same, iron atoms behave all the same. Molecules, however, are one or more atoms joined together by bonds. An entire molecule is manipulated by a single unit, so things like water, methane, salt, all of those are molecules. All of them will move in unison when they're held by a Waldo. Now, like I mentioned in the last level, the game is smart enough to accept all of these configurations as acetylene. I could even, I could have this down here in the bottom row, I could have this guy flipped on his head, I could have this guy lying on his side. All of it is acetylene. None of these are acetylene because something's wrong. This guy doesn't have carbon, this guy doesn't have enough bonds, this guy's just all kinds of messed up. Basically, the identity of a molecule is determined by the type of the atoms and the bonds between them. Rotation of the bonds or rather, rotation of the whole molecule and the angle at which the bonds are at don't change the identity. So, yeah, basically just a quicker way of saying what I was trying to describe up here. Thank you, game, for one-upping me. Now then, to solve this puzzle, we will be using the blue Waldo. He behaves identically to the red one, but only executes his blue instructions. Now, there's two ways we can put down blue instructions because we have red ones right here. First way we can do is like the tutorial is telling us. We can put an instruction down and then right-click to edit it. We can change its color and, for certain instructions, change what they do. So in this case, we can tell it to call from beta as opposed to alpha. Alternatively, if you're going to be putting down a lot of instructions like we are right now, we can press tab and change to putting down blue instructions by default as opposed to red instructions. Alternatively, you can click here to manually change it, or you could just push tab like I do. Now let's put down his arrows. Something else. The red Waldo defaults to this top half of the reactor. The blue Waldo defaults to this bottom half. But they don't have to stay there. Blue can come up here, red can go down here, they can go anywhere on the reactor they want to. You don't have to keep them apart if you don't want to. It all depends on whatever solution you come up with and how you decide to execute it. Alright. Now, once we put this grab drop down, that's it. The tutorial's leaving us on our own to build the other half of the solution. And what we have to do now is move the hydrogen from beta over to omega. So we just do what it told us to do. Let's put you down right here. Nope. You have to put a molecule down before you can actually send it out. If a molecule is still being held onto by a Waldo, it won't leave the reactor. Something very important to note, because you can use that to kind of sneak a molecule through a corner of an output area without having to worry about losing it. But that's all really advanced stuff. I don't have to get into that right now, because all we got to do is basically the same thing as we did in the previous level. Just move the molecule from one side to the other and send it out. As you might have noticed, I did right-click this grab drop, and it showed two other options. That was a force of habit on my part. You can change grab drops to only pick stuff up or only put stuff down. They don't have to be pick up or put down. I like being specific with them just because sometimes in later solutions the Waldos are going to have to run over earlier parts of their track, which they can do, but if there's an instruction there, they're going to try and execute it. And if that's a grab drop, then that means that they're either going to grab something that I don't want them to do, or put down something that I don't want them to do. Or you guys understood what I was trying to say, hopefully. Anyway, let's just continue, because same graphs. Crossover. Game's letting us figure this one out on our own. We have gold coming in alpha and platinum coming in beta, but we have to put the platinum out of psi and the gold out of omega. So, as the level said, we have to cross them over. Now, I do remember from my practice recordings... Sorry about that, I had to take a drink. My throat was starting to get a little dry. I do remember from my practice recordings, I designed a really nice looking thing, or I happened to stumble upon a nice looking solution that kept them in sync. I don't quite remember what it was. I think... well, let's just start the solution off like we always have. We have to call the atoms in, first of all. They have to be grabbed, and again, this is just my force of habit setting it to only pick up. We're not going to have to worry about the Waldos coming back around, but it's just a little habit that's gotten in my head and just hasn't left. Only grab. Now we do want them to come... Yeah, we want blue to go up and red to come down. The thing is, we have to get one of them to move out of the way, because, as the first level told us, slamming two atoms into each other is a fail state. We don't want that to happen. So, I believe it was... I have blue turn out of the way, then go up, put it down, send it out, and come back. And then red just... You come... Mouse, work with me! Thank you. And then red just does the same thing. I have to change that to omega, actually. Okay, I think this is my solution. I think, let's see it run, oops. Okay, well, there you go. That's what happens when two atoms collide with each other. And, yeah, make sure that you put your symbols in the right spot. Alright, let's try that again. No, they're still running each other. What did I do wrong? I swear it looked just like this. Oh. I remember what I did wrong. And it's because I actually forgot you can move the start instructions. So you can actually change where the Waldos start from. So let's scoot all of this up. And actually... Yeah, you know what? I want to show off something kind of neat about this game. So I'm going to quickly delete these. I guess I could have just changed them, but I'm basically going to leave the output commands as they are. And you're probably wondering, why did you do that? Because blue's delivering to psi and red's delivering to omega. Well, if you watch and see, once they actually get there, it still works. Blue's able to trigger omega and red's able to trigger psi. This is another aspect of how this game is open-ended. I can have the Waldos triggering each other's outputs, and the game doesn't mind. It's still getting the atoms that it wants from the outputs that it wants. So, you know, and this, more importantly, demonstrates something else about this game, and that the Waldos are capable of helping each other out. Because there have been times in solutions where, quite frankly, a Waldo just doesn't have enough space to do everything that he needs to do, and I've been able to get around that by having the other Waldo run a command to kind of help the first guy out and save him a little bit of trouble. Now, I don't think there's much more to explain about that. I'm just, you know, moving the atoms like the game wants me to. So how about I show you guys speed 3? Nice and fast. This is pretty good speed. Can be kind of helpful if you just want to let it run. I personally use speed 4 when I just want to let it run. Maybe I can show speed 4 off in the next level, but no promises because it is really fast. An introduction to bonding. Yeah, I'm not going to show it off in this level because we're going to get our first big concept here. Bonding. Now, we have these special tiles that are called bonders, which are capable of adding and removing bonds between atoms. We can move them around just like commands and arrows and the Waldo starting positions. But something important about the bonders is that, first off, they have to be adjacent to each other to actually be able to do anything. And secondly, atoms have to be on top of them to actually be affected by it. So as you can see on this diagram, the 2 carbon atoms in the middle got a bond between them because they're sitting on the bonders, but the ones on the outside didn't because they don't have a bonder to be used with. So bonders have to be in groups to work, and you have to put the atoms directly on top of them to work. We're also given a quick description of our sync command, which we haven't used quite yet, but I believe this level will have us use it just so that we can see how it works. But basically what it does is when one of the Waldos hits his sync command, he will just stand around and wait until the other Waldo hits one of his color. It's basically a way of either waiting for the Waldos to get into position so that they can then do something like, say, sever a bond and then pull a molecule apart. Or you can, if, say, a Waldo's carrying a molecule but the other guy needs to get past, you can have one of them stop and wait for the other one to clear before he goes. So, you know, they never run into each other and make your solution fail. This instruction specifies where the Waldo starts. Oh, like I pointed out in the last level, we can move start commands. This will input a silver atom. Yep, molecules are placed on the 4x4 grid as shown, so however you see it on this grid is however it will show up here. So in this case, the silver will appear on this square. Grab drop instruction. Wow. Serious deja vu to all of my practice recordings where I got ahead of the game in like all the same ways in the exact same spots. So let's set you to only grab, so we don't, if he ever comes back around holding on to something, he will never put something down on the spot. Instructions can quickly be placed by holding the corresponding keyboard key, something I have been doing all this time. Alright, instructions only affect the Waldo that matches their color, just reiterating something that is important. You never have to worry about a red doing something on accident because he had a blue command, or vice versa. That is not an input command. That is an input command. You can also switch between red and blue with the active later controls. These other two controls, we have visible and we have locked. Visible just basically toggles which commands we can see and which ones aren't. This can be useful if your solution gets kind of complicated and you need to better see where you're putting stuff down. The locked commands, I can't actually reach those to show them off because, as you'll see, down here my cursor turns into a normal cursor as opposed to the game cursor. I have to play this game in windowed mode so that I can keep an eye on the recording, but my monitor is at a bit of a funky resolution and SpaceChem doesn't like it. So that's actually the taskbar at the bottom of my desktop that I'm mousing over right now. Yeah, very basic setup. Not professional in the slightest, but I'm trying my hardest. I'm making do. But basically, what the locks do is, say I were to lock the red layer, it would basically keep me from accidentally moving a red command if I didn't want to. Yeah, this instruction will make us pick up the fluorine. Now that both atoms have been input and grabbed by the Waldos, it is time to bond them together. Now we can move bonders, and like we saw on the tutorial sheet, or tutorial page, or instruction page, or whatever you want to call it, you can move the bonders, and they only create bonds. Mouse, please work. Create bonds when they are placed adjacent to other bonders. And that's actually important because you will always get a set number of bonders on any level that allows it. And sometimes you may not need all of the bonders that it provides. In this case, you can isolate bonders to ensure that they never wreak havoc with your solution by, basically severing part of a molecule when you weren't expecting them to. Because, something I didn't mention, is that when bonders are triggered, every bonder tries to activate in the reactor. You can't say, I only want these two to work. All of them activate whenever a bond command is hit. When a Waldo passes over a sync instruction, it will wait there until the other Waldo hits a sync of his own. Placing a pair of synchronized instructions, as this shows us, will ensure that they both begin moving from their spots at the same time. Now, again, that's kind of important because both Waldos move at the same speed. Anytime blue goes forward a square, red goes forward a square, so these commands can be useful when you need 1, 2, stop and wait, or, something similar to that. Sorry about that, I just unconsciously popped my knuckle. This instruction will drop the fluorine atom with the bonder, leaving it ready to be bonded. And then this instruction activates all the bonders, adding a bond between any atoms that are sitting on top of adjacent bonders. Now, come back to instruction, I wasn't done. This is very important. You don't have to put a bond command on top of bonders to get them to work. I could put them anywhere and all the bonders will still fire when a Waldo hits it. It's just frequently, or at least the way that I think, I like trying to bond to whatever atom the Waldo is holding on to. So in order to bond to whatever the Waldo is holding on to, the bond command has to be on top of the bonder. Now that the blue Waldo is all done, since he's already delivered his fluorine, he has to come back down, and that's not... there we go. And then loop back around, because your solution has to loop basically infinite times, although we really only have to run it 10 times before the game says, okay, you're good. Basically, we just don't want them to do it once and then run into a wall and sit around doing nothing. After creating a bond between the two atoms, they are now treated as a molecule, and wherever the silver goes, the fluorine follows. That's a blue arrow, not a red arrow. Thank you. Silver fluoride molecule is now done. We have to move it to the output zone. Like I said, molecules that are held onto by Waldos do not leave the reactor when an output command is hit, so we have to put them down first. And then now that the molecule is in place, we just hit an output command, flush it out, and count it as made. So, a lot of new stuff. Let's start kind of slow to show you guys off. So see, red hits a sync, stops and waits. Bleh. Red hits a sync, he stops and waits for blue to hit a sync before he goes. Likewise, when red hits a bond command, all the bonders flash red, we see little pluses because the bond was successfully made between the two atoms, and then they start moving as a synchronized group, just like the oxygen and the hydrogen and all the other molecules we've been seeing so far. Oh, sorry about that, it felt like I had to burp and I didn't. I'm going to take a sip of water while this runs. Much better. Alright. I feel like there was something else I wanted to talk about in this level, but I don't remember what it was now. And unfortunately, I have the sneaking suspicion that that means that it was important. Oh, you know what? Let's just hit speed 3 and get him to finish. Alright, now what are we are? What are we are? Where are we at? Good Lord, I can't talk sometimes. A brief history of SpaceChem. New story? Okay, good. I didn't miss a page. I was actually afraid of that. Like I said, not reading this. I'll leave it on screen for right now in case you guys want to pause and read it yourselves. Alright. Back to training, and this is a little bit more in-depth about the bonds. Pairs of atoms can have a maximum of 3 bonds between them. As far as I'm aware, there is no such thing as a quadruple bond in chemistry, either real life or this game. And basically, bonds are every time a bond plus command is every time a bond plus command is hit, a bond is made, a single one is made, and they go single, double, triple. And whenever we hit a bond minus command, they go back down until finally there's nothing connecting the two. Additionally, each element has a maximum number of bonds allowed per its type. Information can be found on the periodic table with this number in the upper right corner. Attempting to add more bonds than an atom is allowed does not make more bonds, but also does not cause your solution to fail. So, as you can see, hydrogen only ever wants to make 1 bond, so if you try to double bond hydrogen, you won't make that second bond, but you also won't fail your solution. So there's nothing wrong with trying to make bonds where there is no room, it just won't do anything. Now, something else to note is that, see how oxygen is okay making 2 bonds? If I were to try and link an oxygen and a hydrogen, I could still only go as high as a single bond because hydrogen only wants to make 1. So even though oxygen wants to make 2, I can only go up to a single bond because, well, hydrogen only ever wants to make 1. Now, likewise, many atoms in this game have a really high number of bonds. So with nitrogen, for example, he's okay making 5, so he can go up to a triple bond and then still make more. I will admit, this is where the game does start to depart from actual chemistry for a little bit, because I'm pretty sure there's some atoms in this game that want to make like 7 or even 8 bonds, and I don't think that's actually how they work in real life. But I'm honestly not sure. I'm not a chemistry major. I'm not even a chemistry minor. My only experience with chemistry was 1 class in my first year of high school, and that's it. Okay. Game's leaving us on our own again, and this time we have to put hydrogen and chlorine together to make hydrochloric acid. Now, as it said, the information is on the periodic table, and you click this button to get the whole periodic table. Every single atom known to mankind is on this table. We can see their atomic number, their maximum bonds, their atomic symbol, and their name. And if you need to look a little bit more closely, hovering over any of them makes it, basically enlarges it down in the lower left for you to see. Ruthenium, osmium, hassium, they all make 8 bonds in this game. I don't think they actually go that high in real life. But I'm honestly not sure. Like I said, I don't know chemistry. There's I think there's 3 or 2 or maybe 4, some amount of elements that should be right here on the periodic table. They were discovered and officially accepted onto the table after this game's release, and the game just never updated to put them in. But, that's not really on the game's fault, because I know that pretty much once you get into this part of the periodic table down here, atoms really don't last that long. They start ripping themselves apart within seconds or even fractions of a second after being created. They don't occur naturally as a result. they just get really weird, so there's not really a point to including them. But just wanted to specify that, yes, I know there are things like, what were they called? Like, I know there's one that was called like Copernicum or something like that. They do exist, they're just not in the game because they were discovered after the game and never patched in. Anyway. Now, you might be wondering, or thinking to yourself, I really don't want to go back to the periodic table every time I have to double check something. Is there any faster way? Yes, there is. It will appear down here. Anytime you hover over an atom in this game screen, you can see a quick description of its periodic table information right there. So in this case, chlorine is atomic number 17, and he wants to make, I believe that's a 7. Like I said, that's actually blurred out by my menu bar, start bar, whatever you want to call it, at the bottom of my desktop. Okay. Enough prattling, let's just do what we've always done. The typical start to a solution, nothing too fancy. I don't want the grab right there, I learned that in the crossover level. Okay. Now let's have them turn towards the bonders. I don't actually need to move them because they're already all nicely oriented, and since we're only working with 2 atoms at a time, we don't have to worry about any bond weirdness happening. I don't think I need this right now, but no, actually I don't think I need this. If I make sure that red's loop is the same length as blue's loop, I don't actually need to synchronize them because, you know, they'll already be in sync and they will never fall out of sync. So, you know what, because red got to put the molecule together in the last level, let's have him let go of his atom so blue can have, blue can put the molecule together. And then blue comes down, does not try to output it. Mouse, thank you. He puts it down and then sends it out, and red does the same thing. And then run the solution and make sure it works. Bonded, red lets go of the hydrogen, blue lets go of the chlorine. Oh, that's what it was. Really quick, we have to make sure that red lets go of his hydrogen before they hit this turn. Because if they don't, let's just put it on speed 2 so we get there faster, we get another fail state. A molecule has been grabbed by both Waldos and pulled apart. To avoid this error, do not grab molecules with both Waldos. As you might have been able to see, you can grab a molecule with both Waldos, and the game will be happy so long as both Waldos are going in the same direction. But as you see, the moment red tries to go up and blue tries to go down, we get a fail state because you can't break bonds by pulling a molecule apart. You have to remove them with a bonder. So, I like keeping... Sometimes I like letting both Waldos hold onto the same molecule. For example, if I were breaking the hydrochloric acid apart, that way I could have them be in sync, and basically because they're holding onto the same molecule, once the bond is cut, red can take his part wherever he needs to go, and blue can take his part to wherever he needs to go. I hope that made sense. Really hoping this is all making sense right now. I feel like I'm going a little fast, and for that I apologize. But I am trying to not let this video drag on for too long. If you have stuck around if you have stuck around for this long, thank you very much. I'm sure that this is not the most riveting thing, and honestly it's not the most interesting thing, but once we get into later levels we will be doing a lot more fun tricks and fun things with these molecules. There's a whole host of tools that we haven't even seen yet. You know, we'll be able to, like, minor spoiler alert, but at some point we will get a big tile that basically lets us split an atom apart into like 2 equally sized atoms. It's actually a lot of fun once we get into the real game and out of this tutorial area. Not to say that the tutorials aren't fun, but anyway. Alright, last level of the video. Like I said, in all my practice recordings, trying to put the 2 tutorial planets together resulted in a video that was ridiculously long. I'm not going to subject you guys to that this time. I'm going to keep Sernimir 2 in his own video, and we'll do the other planet in the next video. But, for now, let's just get into this next tutorial, removing bonds. Now in this case, we're given, I'm guessing that's fluorine gas, F2? Because I mean H2 is hydrogen gas and O2 is oxygen gas, so I'm guessing F2 is fluorine gas. Anyway, we're getting a 2 fluorine molecule, but we have to deliver them 1 atom at a time. So instead of creating bonds, we have to remove bonds, like the level described. Actually, no, I don't want you to grab onto that atom. If you need to quickly select and move a bunch of commands at once, you can just click and drag and then move the whole group at once. Yeah, I want you to grab onto the right half of the molecule, because that will be the front side when you're moving towards the output. Let's bring Blue up here, and have him wait right here. And then I want red sync to be right here. And there's a good reason for this gap, even though the molecule doesn't have it, and I will get into that just a moment. And just put the rest of the solution together. We just have to sever the bond between the fluorines, and then carry them up, put them out. And there we go. Okay, now the reason we have to have this gap between the 2 Waldos is because of this turn right here. Whoops. Silly me. I actually have to tell Blue to pick up the other fluorine molecule, or fluorine atom, not molecule. Okay. We have to have them a space apart because of this turn right here. If the Waldos are adjacent to each other and they try to go around a 90-degree turn, 90-degree turn. I say that like you can make other kinds of turns in this game. If they're right next to each other and the one in the front has to make a turn, they will bump into each other because they just don't have enough time to get out of their way, or out of each other's way, and they're moving perpendicular to each other. And if you need proof of that, I can quickly nudge Blue forward a square. He waits, and thunk. Yep, collision between atoms are not allowed. So something to keep in mind if you're going to have your Waldos following the same path in the same direction. Obviously, they have to go in the same direction, otherwise they crash into each other. Basically, if you're doing something like this, they have to have a gap between each other, otherwise they're going to just smack into each other and crash your solution. Now, I've teased it this whole video, so how about I show you guys Speed 4? I kid you not, that was Speed 4. I pushed the button and the game finished. Speed 4 is ridiculously fast. In fact, you know what? While I'm editing this, I'm actually going to go ahead and count the frames that it took Speed 4 to finish and put that on screen, in case you're all curious. Yeah, Speed 4 is if you know your solution is going to work, you just need it to run, basically. And scarily enough, as fast as Speed 4 is, I do pretty clearly remember one level in this game that, at least with my solution to it, it took so long to finish that even at Speed 4 it took several minutes. Right. And here we are, Sernimir 4. This is the second of the 2 tutorial planets, and we'll be getting into double bonds in the next video. So, As you can see down here, this is our list of planets. All of these gray circles are planets we have not yet unlocked. There's a lot of them, and just for kind of an indicator, I don't think we unlocked the user-made levels until this guy, I think? Or was it this guy? Hang on. No, I think it was this planet. I don't think we unlocked the user levels until this planet, so we really don't get it until we're almost done with the story. And I kid you not, that's because pretty much on each of the planets leading up to that point, we will be learning a new concept per planet. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be very steadily introduced to new ideas and new stuff to play with, basically, as we keep going. And the game will get progressively harder and harder. I don't know how easily I'll be able to break this sort of game up into episodes, because I get the feeling there's going to be some times where I can do 2 or 3 levels in an episode, and there's going to be other times where I might have to just... the episode will be longer than I want, and even then I'm still going to be doing the same single level through the entire thing. But anyway, that was Sernimir 2. All done. And next time, we will be going to Sernimir 4 and wrapping up this tutorial with a little bit more practice with bonding, and then the other level type that I mentioned. Or at least I think I mentioned, I hope I mentioned. Anyway. So, that was SpaceChem. I hope you guys have enjoyed, hope you had a great time, and I hope you guys have a great day. I will see you in the next episode. Farewell for now.